All right. Yep. It's recording.
There we go. Okay. So Renee can correct me if I'm wrong since I don't have my notes, but I think they were saying Renee was super concerned about the sync.
Hmm.
And I know you had given us well, there's, it's not ideal, but there's a way to sync, manually, and it's doable. So what they were telling us is that it would sync, but it would be at the end
Okay.
of the day every day, which is not horrible, because
Yep.
that means at least once a day. But where our concern was that sync didn't go both ways. And so I don't think I understand enough about your software to know, but if I'm a member and I'm in the Higher Logic software and I'm adding myself to another group or whatever, in that software, there's no way that comes back to
Correct.
members.
So yeah. So basically, we have what's called activity sync. So activity sync is the ability to kind of push data back from Higher Logic into the database. So we don't have that with Growth Zone. It's basically we probably have it with about 30 different databases, I would say, and then we integrate with probably around 60. So we probably half we have that with. We want to build that with everybody, but it's just I think based, and I'm not a technical expert when it comes to databases, but I think it's something on their end where we just aren't able to push back the data.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer, but we can set it up so if somebody wants to make a change on their Higher Logic profile, when they click the contact details, for example, you don't want to have data in two different places. So when they click something, it'll bring them right back to Member Zone, where they can then make that change, and then once they click save, it brings them right back to Higher Logic.
Okay, so is there also a report of some sort? And I don't know, again, because we haven't set this up, so I can't imagine all the ways that this is problematic yet. Is there a way also to get some kind of like daily activity report or weekly activity report that Renee could go through? And, and again, some of these activities we may not care about, but if someone is entering or leaving a group and we want to be sure we're tracking that.
Yeah, and let me go ahead and boom, boom, boom. There's a ton. We have probably about 150 reports in the back end.
Okay.
Everything from how many people have actually agreed to terms and joined the community, how many members do you have, how many people have made connections, to in the last week, what does our engagement look like? How many people have visited these websites, how many people have replied to discussions, all the way down to individual users. In the last week, who has done this engagement, who's made these posts, who are my most active members, who are my least active members, who are the people who are not posting a ton in the community.
And then, but I mean, specifically on what they've done.
On those individual members?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can get as granular as you want there, where you can go down to the individual members if you go down to people.
And again, I'm just trying to think, there's only certain areas of this where we really care. Like what I can imagine, for example, if we have affinity groups based on, say, finance or fundraising, and somebody drops finance and adds fundraising, and we have a list or a quote unquote group that we're keeping in Member Zone and we're feeding that, then all of a sudden that list isn't as accurate. You see, that's where I'm worried we're going to run into some issues.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think this. So I guess, do you have that sort of, like, would those affinity groups live within Member Zone, or would it just be within Higher Logic?
That's the question. I mean, I guess I'm in the ideal world when this is all syncing so beautifully, it lives in both. So I think that's what's making us nervous, is we don't really want anything living anywhere without it being in the other. And we realize that's not as, possible as we hoped it would be. So that's what we're trying to figure out.
I guess,
for some of these groups, it won't matter, but for some it will.
Can you tell me a little bit about the affinity groups? What exactly are those groups?
Well, we don't have any yet, but like you said, what I envision is what you're suggesting, this overall group that's available to any nonprofit. And then among our members, we have an advocacy alliance, that is very specific, and we control. That's a controlled group, who's in that and who's not. Same thing with our board, of course, and our public policy committee. And then outside of that, what we wanted to do, again later, were regional groups. So,
Okay.
you know, whether I live or work in X designated part of Kentucky, it's a way for us to connect. So those are some kind of geographical affinity groups. And then we'd envisioned, you know, whether they're CEO only or board member only or fundraising discussion, you know, just we really hadn't thought that through, but we envision kind of topic-based affinity groups.
Okay. Yeah, and so you could definitely do that. I mean, within even the open forum community, you can create topic communities. So you can have it be. So let me go to. I don't have that in my demo site actually. Let me go over to Hug, because it's
so it's not like
fairly
new communities for that necessarily. It's within that open one, unless we wanted it to be those to be available to members only. Would we have to create something new?
It's sorry, say that again.
So say the open forum is available to anyone, but those that are more specific are available to members only. Is that still doable within that? Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely doable. So this is our online product and support community within Hug. So this is actually a topic community. So the way that works is basically anytime somebody makes a post, you have to select a topic.
Gotcha.
That's just a way for people to, like, you know, really only see the content that they really care about.
Right.
So you can put in your profile that you only care about event manager, or, you know, you'd set up obviously specifically for your association. And then in terms of actual networking groups, so we find that grouping by actual physical location typically isn't the best way to kind of get engagement, just because, you know, people in one area are, you know, having the same conversations typically as people in another area. We just find that isn't usually successful. You definitely can still do it, obviously, but we just, you know, knowing our best practices, we know that typically doesn't go great. What most people do is usually connect by networks. So these networks allow your members to see everybody who has the same basically demographics that they do. So I can see everybody who also lives in the same city that I do, everybody who has the same expertise, everybody who works for the same industry, or maybe even works for the same company, joined for the same reason, went to the same college, things like that. And I can see everybody who also lives in the same city that I do. And I can add them as a contact or send them a message.
And so, and I mean, when you think about my concern, well, and I think the reason we're going geographic is people are saying they want that. They want us convening them locally. Well, we, our staff, myself and Renee, we can't do that. So, you know, looking for a way to talk about their regional issues around running a nonprofit, you know, and being able to do that by city. You know, I may live in Lexington, that's easy to see 120 people. If I live in Pineville, I may be the only nonprofit in that city. So, that, you know, when you're talking about a smaller area like Kentucky and many of those rural communities, you know, I think we're going to need to try to help them connect. I mean, I think that's part of what they want to do here is, you know, because again, in some parts of Kentucky, they're in a region that still takes them 2 hours to get within that region because it's so rural. So, I think that we may be a little unique in that sense, and we could be wrong. It could backfire and nobody could use it. But, you know, we've been going around the state holding meetings, and what people are saying is, oh, we want you to help us launch, you know, opportunities for us to get together. And then people are like, oh, we're too busy to get together. So I think we see this as a middle ground to take a look at.
Definitely.
The other question, you know, like when I'm seeing those awesome profiles, I'm trying to think of that example and others where we're maybe going to miss I don't know if those things would have been in the sync anyway, but that's stuff we could miss. People could make this profile super awesome. And we could, I mean, I guess as long as we have in Member Zone what their email is, we're good. But
Yeah.
because here,
Yeah, I mean,
people could put greats. I mean, this is like a LinkedIn profile, basically, right?
yeah, you can even import information from LinkedIn.
Yeah. Which you couldn't have done in Member Zone anyway. So, okay.
Yeah, and the profiles you can really use in a couple different ways. You can sync whatever data you have from MemberZone into this profile. But then all of these either, you can lock it down. So for example, contact details, where they click that, that's when they got brought back to Growth Zone to make sure that data is all in one place. But then a lot of times people will use this kind of for what we call ad hoc demographics, where things like their interests, their honors, area of expertise, stuff that you maybe don't really need in Growth Zone, but basically what people use to network. And that can kind of live within Higher Logic.
Okay. Are there any other areas where you see this being a problem for us that we need to be thinking about a solution to manage? Where we're going to be like,
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think especially starting out with that one big open forum is kind of the big networking and collaboration space. And then as you get more comfortable with the platform, as get more comfortable with the sync and the integration with MemberZone, then starting to work with us to figure out, all right, how do we expand this? Especially once that open forum is, does get active and people are using it. And once you're comfortable with that, I think being able to expand from there is definitely a good idea.
Gotcha. Okay. So to make sure I understand, we could have can you show me a forum?
Yep. Yep. So you can have as many communities as you want.
Okay.
So you can have, most groups will do a community for their annual conference. Or committees.
Yes. Okay.
For things like learning, and then a big open forum.
Okay.
And I can show you an example of kind of a real world similar organization, much larger organization, but
right.
a nonprofit group for
logged into NKN, and I have not done this yet. So yeah.
Okay. Well, just to kind of show, I mean, I think they probably started out with one big open forum that's, I think it's called their general discussion, but then they've kind of expanded to have a place for women in nonprofit tech, for specifically tech decision makers. So that's probably their CEO community. Advertising, data, things like that.
And so that's available to everyone.
Yep.
Sorry.
So this is, no, you're fine. So the way they set it up is anybody can sign up. So you don't have to be a member to get access.
Okay. But like for
I'm logged.
That community, so go back to the communities. So there's I'm sorry, I'm on N10. My apologies. Are all of these open as well, or is it possible like general discussion, but then women in tech is members only?
Yeah, so I'm not sure exactly how they set it up.
But there's flexibility.
Yeah, so it looks like I don't have ability to join women in tech.
Okay, gotcha.
Which is, so perfect example. So you can see a lot of these communities. If I try to click on women in nonprofit tech, I don't get access to that. So that's something that's a members only benefit. Okay. But then the general discussion is open to non-members. So I have the ability to join that community.
Communities, members only. Okay. All right. So can you cover some of the other features that we weren't able to get to?
Yeah, I mean, don't remember exactly what we didn't get to, so I can just kind of walk through. Yeah. I can just kind of walk through a typical, here's how you make a post, here's how you share resources, here's how you use a directory. Does that work?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So this is what an average community looks like. So every community comes with a few different things. So the discussion groups, which is a forum where they're able to, ask each other questions, network, these are the discussions that are happening here. Hey, who has this experience with this free CRM? How do you write an award-winning RFP? Things like that. N10 really uses these discussions as a way to attract new members. So that's why a lot of this is open. If you Google a lot of this, you'll probably come across the N10 community. That can be a really, really great way to attract new members and drive revenue. They also come with the resource library, so the place where you can, share, if you're in a committee, meeting minutes, videos, webinars, PDFs, articles, like kind of anything you could think of.
Okay. Now, definitely, let's pause a little bit here because this is super important to us. What we have in MemberZone right now is not attractive. I don't think it's being, and I don't know that Renee, I know she can track a lot of usage stats in MemberZone, but I don't know that she can track this. But any type of file can be put, like, can you show, is this how the library is structured, or is there a way that it's done in categories? Can you show me different ways that this looks?
Yeah, definitely. So there's this list view where you can see, who made the post, what type of document is in it. This is just the kind of most recent documents that are being shared. You can sort by the different type of document. So if it's a video, if it's an image, really kind of however you want to sort that. You can search by the title, by most recent, the top scoring. And you can also do this folder view. So most organizations will typically like to organize this in some way. And I think I've made this for Renee, where you can have different library structures. I think she really liked this, where you could sort by, meeting minutes, committee work, specific library information, things like that.
Okay, and I apologize. I got kicked off. I don't know what happened, but I'm back in. So, so how did you show me already and I missed it, how it looks? Go back. You were showing like where someone posted. In this scenario, I mean, is it, for our purposes, it would be our resource library? Like if someone wanted to add to the library, we would have to approve it. Is that doable?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I think Renee and I had talked about this as well. So this resource library lives within the open forum. So this is more for where your members are kind of sharing resources within discussions. Hey, everybody, we just wrote this RFP. I'd love some feedback of, what you think we could do better. And they'll attach their RFP, and that'll go into the resource library, things like that. Hey, everybody, I just saw this cool article. I thought it'd be worth discussing. They attach the article, it goes into the resource library. You can also do a standalone resource library. So that's a place where the staff can post resources. So that's what I talked about, and that's why I made these little committee folders or KNN folders.
Yes.
So that can be a place where you're specifically posting information. And that can be locked down where just the staff and the admins are able to post things there.
Gotcha. And what typically we have like a principles and practices for nonprofit excellence program with about 17 overriding categories: governance, fundraising, finances, etc. So are those look like this, or is this what it looks like in the back end?
Those look like this. You can make it configurable. There is design work that you can do.
Okay.
That would be an additional cost.
Yeah, because I mean, in all fairness, that doesn't look much different than what we're doing now. So that's why I was kind of like, it's just they're from a folder. It's like they're not incredibly easy to search, and we usually have a ton of documents within some of the categories.
And then 1 second. Boom. Hold on. Yeah, I mean, this is an example of a pretty cool one that was designed out. This is in the Higher Logic Resource Library, where you can search by different, hey, I'm looking for things about worksheets.
Yeah. Yes, that's very cool. So did you all do that work for them, or did they?
They did a third party. So we have a couple design companies we work with, and they had a third party do this resource library for them. It is, our resource library is, I mean, you mentioned the searchability. The search function is really, really easy. So if I'm searching for information about health throughout the entire system, it's kind of like an Amazon where you can refine by type of content, by the specific community, by who actually wrote it, by different tags and keywords, type of document.
Okay.
The most recent, the most viewed, things like that.
And do you have any clue how much that costs them to do that?
I do not. I can try to figure that out.
Okay.
That I believe that was done by our partner eConverse. So Martha Jack, she does a lot of design work she exclusively works with Higher Logic. I think this was Martha. Yeah, so this was done by Martha. I can try to figure out how much that would cost, but I would see, probably some groups, spend $5,000 on their design. We have groups that spend, $50,000 on their design because we're doing their whole. Yeah, I mean, we have groups, because probably like 25% of groups use us as their full website.
Okay.
I mean, this is an example. This is a Higher Logic website that had just a ton of design work.
Okay. Well, and so this is a good question about kind of website integration. So like with MemberZone, it looks like our shell, but then it's populating with MemberZone content. Whether that be the directory or the events page or that kind of, is that how your all's works as well, or?
I guess what do you mean by that?
Well, like if you want to go to our website, kynonprofits.org, and then when you click on learn, this is the slow way there, sorry, and then professional development opportunities over here on the left, and then go to event calendar. Okay, so now it doesn't look like you left the site, but this content is pumped in by MemberZone. Or see where it says. So I mean, you don't feel
powered by members.
You don't feel like that you ever left our site, and maybe you haven't. But I mean, now you're in a different world, and we don't control what this looks like now. It's just it automatically pre-populates. Is that how this would work, or?
Kind of. So you do, when you go over to Higher Logic, you do go over to another site.
Okay.
Because we're built on our own CMS. So, it says member.knonprofits.org. It would probably say something like community.kynonprofits.org or connect, whatever you want to name that.
Okay.
If I would say, the look and feel of the website right now, you would click on the top here, maybe community or connect or collaborate. And then you would come over to something that looks like this. So it has a similar look and feel. We have groups that again design it to be really, really seamless. A lot of groups kind of like to have a little bit of a different look, so people kind of know, okay, this is the area where we're networking. This is the community. A couple examples. This is a real estate association we work with, and this is their main website built on WordPress, I believe, not Higher Logic, and then their community is called My SIOR. And you click on that, and it brings you over the community. So it has a different, similar, but a little bit of a different look and feel.
And so when you go back to our page, and right now when you click on member login, that logs you into MemberZone. So do you envision that people are logging into MemberZone to then get to the community, or they could log in directly to the community and they're, it's still the same login, or they can do it any way they want and get there however they
can do it. Yep, they can do it however they want, and it'll be the same login. So we definitely, and I assume they said this, that we can definitely do single sign-on. So it's the same username and password.
Okay.
So it's really kind of however they want.
So but what we've got to do is make room for that button up there.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I would definitely recommend, making making the community a pretty, easy for your members to access.
Right.
I see groups all the time that have their community in like the tiniest little corner.
Right.
Make it easy. A lot of people also will be coming in through email, I would guess. Most of the time, I see groups all the time where people are coming over from these daily digests. So these daily
I see.
emails.
They're getting at the end of the day what happened.
Yep, exactly. So I'll come and click through here. It'll see my login and bring me right to this community.
Gotcha. Okay, one more question that I want to make sure of. If you'll go back to our site and click on Learn. And then down on the left-hand side, you'll see nonprofit resources. Okay, so when you scroll down a little bit, this is what I was talking about. So some things right now are housed directly on this site, but other things, these are the categories that we typically use. And so when you click on governance, I'm eager to make sure this works. So this shows you all the things, the examples and links that we have. Now, when you click on one of them, you shouldn't be able to have access. There you go.
Yep.
So we could still have this page, but the login goes to our online community with you guys and not the member information center. We could do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So we just have to figure out, is it that different to make that? And I guess Renee can kind of explore that. Is that worth,
yeah.
Okay.
Bringing it all over.
Yeah. Well, because within, I'm just I don't want to send people to too many different places. And I'm worried, I think that's a question I'm going to have for Member Zone is where in the Member Information Center is linking to Higher Logic going to be?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I'm taking notes here.
No, that's fine.
Okay, all right, sorry. So if you want to go on with, after we've talked about the resources, what's next?
Yeah. So I'll just show kind of how those discussions work in the email. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So and within the community, I mentioned the resource libraries. They also have, you can do things like announcements, the ability to quickly upload a file if your members just want to post a video. You can see all the recently shared member files. Each community also has a membership roster, so you can see everybody who's a member of this community and add them as a friend or send them a message. And then this is what that forum actually looks like. So you can see when the last post was, how many replies, who's posting these things. You can also do things like add tags to, I think this was from our original demo, I believe, this post. I think I took this right from N10. So we added, I'm pretty sure we did this last time, but we added a sales tax tab.
Okay.
You can see, people are having these conversations. You can do things like or recommend, add hashtags, keywords. You can mention people, things like that. So actually making a post, really easy and simple. Just post a message.
And so our issue here is, how do we create an environment here that's open enough that encourages people to get engaged in posts, but then is restrictive enough that it urges them to join ultimately, that they can't get everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me just add this. I mean, it really depends, it depends on the goal of your organization. I would say a lot of groups, I mean, N10, I would say is most groups don't allow as much access as N10 does. This is one of our most open communities.
Gotcha.
The majority of groups will do things that their members can view these discussions, but unless you're a member, you can't make a post.
Oh, okay. So is that possible? You can see but can't post? Is that possible?
Yep. You can definitely make these communities view only, where if you have to be a member to actually get access to this.
Ooh, okay. That may be the way to go. I mean, it's challenging because we want to help and advance all nonprofits. Mm-hmm. But then we have members who say, why should I continue to join if everybody gets this? It's that differential and value proposition for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So this post was made. You can obviously see, you can easily view the attachment, the PDF that was shared right here. Mm-hmm. Oops. Didn't mean to click that out. And then you can either reply, directly to the sender. You can reply to the discussion as a whole, right on the community. But you can also have all these conversations right through email.
Okay.
So I'm subscribed to this community in real time. So I made that post at 10:37. Time zones are. I'm actually in. We're based in DC. I'm actually in Chicago right now. For a wedding. So I'm Central Time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I got this email, and right away it goes directly into my inbox.
Okay. And can the user control how they get that, or?
Yep, exactly. I'll go to the profile.
And I guess to that end, are there videos and such you all have that we could share with our members of here's how to easily, hopefully, I would say we do not have the most tech savvy members, to be able to do what they want to do.
Yep. So we have what's called our client example library. Okay. So this is and Hug in general is a really, really great resource for our clients to be able to have conversations about what you can have these conversations with your implementation team, but I always think it's really helpful to, make a post in Hug, say, hey, we're about to launch, we're struggling with how open we should keep our community. Has any other similar organization gone through this? Do you have any advice? Things like that. It's a really, really great tool to kind of learn from people who are successful. And this client example library has a ton of this information. Hey, does anybody have samples of the ways that they launched this? What are their email communications, press release, example videos of, staff trainings, welcome messages, things like that.
Okay.
And then showing on the profile the kind of privacy settings. So your members are in complete control over how they interact with this platform. So you can be in control of all these notifications. Here's the communities I'm a member of. I can decide if I want to do real time, if I want to do that daily digest email where you get that daily email of everything that happened the day before in the community, and then the no email or weekly if you want.
Okay, great.
And then those daily emails. Good example, dynamic users group. This is a community that I'm a member of, and you can see this is, all the emails that happen, or all the conversations that happened the day before.
Okay, awesome. Well, and so I know the directory in here, like we've talked about, is very LinkedIn. Now, our directory with MemberZone is organizationally based. So I see the benefit here of having both, because this is really an individual tool to really enhance membership for employees of our members. So, I mean, do you think that that's helpful that we're using both, or?
It's really up to you. We have groups that it just really depends on, do you like the MemberZone directory or do you like Logic? You could definitely do both. We also have the ability to do a company directory if you want.
Oh, okay.
So you can have as many directories as you want. So you can have directories for public. You can have members only directories. You can have company directories. It's really up to you.
I guess my question is, now if you go back to our website, is it still up? Oh, no, sorry.
That's fine.
So we go to membership, our members. So this is our directory. So they can search by keyword, postal code, and then we've got our corporate people and categories as well as nonprofit. So they can search blindly, or if they know who they're looking for or whatever, then they can do it that way. So, but as you can see, I mean, and in fairness, this is so advanced over what we used to have, but so not necessarily robust as compared to what you guys have. So, I'm just not sure. But I guess the question I have is, if we decide we wanted to go with your directory, is there a way that it populates in here? I guess that was that similar question I was asking earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I would say just based on looking at this directory, I would probably keep this. I think this is,
okay,
compared to a lot of database directories, this is pretty nice and pretty user-friendly and easy.
I see the benefit of keeping this for our organizations, but then as individuals within Higher Logic, then it's more like a LinkedIn. It's more about me. It's not necessarily about yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
And then use the Higher Logic directory as, hey, I'm a member. I'm looking to network with somebody who has this expertise because I'm, looking for help on something like this.
Gotcha. Okay. And when we're doing that nightly sync, if Danielle and Renee work for KNN and KNN's membership lapses, that nightly sync, and we would only do that at the end of the month, but at the end of the month, our individual profiles, I could no longer access them because my membership is
correct.
lapsed. Okay. Gotcha. All right, and if you don't mind, show me a little bit about events. Again, right now, we are managing our KNN events through Member Zone. That's working well. We've encouraged our members to post their events on the calendar that's in that member information center, but that is not going well. And so again, similar to the directory, I'm envisioning that your event calendar could be a great way for them to put their events there and people see them. We could put our events there as well, but I mean, we're just really hesitant to clutter up our event calendar with this golf tournament and that golf tournament. But within this community, it seems totally fine,
Yeah, exactly. And that's a great way you can have those members be able to create those and just have these open form events. Hey, this is my event that's coming up. Feel free to attend. Feel free to donate, things like that.
Okay. Can you show me where that?
Yeah, and also upcoming events. So even things like online trainings, academy. So this registration, so that is an additional module. So you would need Event Manager to actually handle things like registration and payments. But you can still have events where people can just view and see what's going on.
Yeah, no, we would actually do that through Member Zone. So truly, it would just be our member. We might put our KNN events on there just so they're not lost to people. But this would be our members action. And so when they, so if I'm Habitat for Humanity and I have a golf tournament coming up, I post that because I don't know what screen you're on, but we may be frozen. I'm on our member directory search screen.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So like what you're doing here is a lot of this you're saying is the add-on. If it's basically here's the event and there's info and a link to it, is that included?
Yep, that's included. And you could do that a couple different ways. They could create events. They could even just make posts in the open forum. You could even have an event community where you could have a place where people talk about their events, where they can just post, hey, we have this event coming up. Here's a link.
Is there a calendar?
Yep. It's not as, so like the calendar, I think you're envisioning like an actual, it's more, you can see the upcoming events, or you can see, let me go to Hug because that looks a little better. We don't have a calendar view, but you can do the list view of all the events that are coming up.
Okay, gotcha. List view. Okay. All right. So that's all included. So anything else that's included that we've not talked about, you think?
I don't think so. I think we did a good job of kind of going through everything.
Okay. And then what are I think that's the other piece we didn't even get to. Like, what are some of the add-on modules?
Yeah, let me pull up the list.
And again, I apologize. This is the flyer that I have at the office. So.
No, it's not. Where are we going here? PowerPoint's being very slow. Okay. Yeah, so we have a ton of additional modules. The nice thing is you can definitely start small and add these on as you go.
Okay.
Once you're fully launched, you'll transition from an implementation manager to a client success manager. And the client success manager will be able to do things like work on you with your, engagement, getting your members to use it, and then also additional modules.
Okay.
So everything on the right are additional modules. There might be a couple on here that, that are missing, it looks like, but, things like content manager, so that's us running your full website. Mentor Match is typically really popular. That's our most popular module, where you can have potential mentors and mentees really easily connect with each other. We have mobile apps, learning management, volunteer manager. We also have marketing automation, so email marketing. But those are some of the additional modules.
Okay, and that's a good point. Can you talk about the automation? Like when someone logs in for the first time, are we able to send them a welcome to the community kind of thing? Or
I actually
just in the free version, or okay.
Yep. Yeah. So our automation rules are right out of the box, and they're really kind of one of the main reasons why our members our clients are so successful. It's all about pushing out the right message to the right member at the right time. So exactly what you're talking about, a new member welcome. When somebody registers for the first time on the community, they'll get an automated message saying, hey, Chris, thanks so much for joining. Here's a couple links to set up your profile. Thanks so much. A week later, they might get a message that says, hey, Chris, thanks again for joining. Why don't you make a post introducing yourself on the open forum? Tell people a little bit about your nonprofit and, maybe ask a question.
Okay.
Then they can get even more advanced. So things like We Miss You campaigns. Maybe if somebody used to post on the community all the time, but hadn't done anything in the last 90 days, they'll get a message that says, hey, Chris, we miss you. We haven't heard from you in a while. Come back and get involved.
Okay.
So
awesome.
So we have about 125 of those that are built right in as kind of best practices. Most of the time, the implementation team will say, start with turning on, 15 or something like that.
Yeah.
And as you grow, you can also build them yourselves, but our best practice ones are really great. Those are really important. And I would say times when groups, aren't successful with this is because they're not using the automation rules.
Yeah, that's something we don't have with MemberZone. It drives me crazy.
Yeah,
because I think
pretty great.
It's a missed opportunity,
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. When you go back to that list, so I guess what you're talking, is there an email function?
Yeah. So one of the additional modules is we have an email marketing tool. So similar, most of the time groups will come from something like a Constant Contact or MailChimp. It's just kind of a more advanced version of those.
Okay. But I guess my concern with that is if we're not able to push back and forth, that creates a really difficult situation.
Yeah. Are you using the Growth Zone email tool?
I am, and it doesn't, in my opinion, sync well with MailChimp, which is what we were using. So I design things in MailChimp, and then I push them out via MemberZone.
Okay.
Because MailChimp has zero, in my opinion, quality design. I mean, there's no templates. I mean, there's no design tools.
Okay.
So, but I have to say our open and click rate is higher, which is great. But on the
Oh,
flip side, you can't track what people are clicking on. I mean, it's maddening. So
yeah,
there have been
that's,
some pros and cons of that. I mean, I think our engagement via email is higher because they're opening it, and maybe it's the deliverability is better than it was with MailChimp. I don't know, but it's hard to really dig into what they're doing other than when we see a registration jump or, you know, a download or whatever.
yeah. And our marketing automation tool is really powerful, but I honestly don't know a ton about how it integrates with MemberZone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that might be something, down the road that might be worth looking at,
Gotcha.
because you do get a ton of reporting and tracking on, where people are clicking, how are they coming to your
Yeah.
website, how are they engaging with your emails, things like that.
But I think it's the same issue. I mean, we could do that with MailChimp, but the problem is if
Yeah,
we can push back and forth, all of a sudden we're running a separate database, and we don't want to do that. So
exactly.
that's
Yeah.
where it becomes the problem. Yeah. So
And
we've
if
given up
like
that
I
intelligence, basically.
yeah, exactly. And again, I'm not sure about it, but in theory, you should be able to. These are called our target groups, and they are a lot of times pulled in from these databases. So, you can have your list of the people who have visited certain pages, who have attended certain events, who maybe have lapsed their membership, things like that. That should, in theory, be connected with GrowZone.
Okay, that'd be cool. But that's an add-on.
Yeah, that's an additional module, and
Okay.
that's pretty similar to the cost of the community.
Oh, wow. So high.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was, you can actually buy that just standalone. You don't have
Uh-huh.
to have the community for that module.
Okay. All right. And then I'm trying to think what else appealed to us. If you go back, I apologize, if you go back to that list or that
Yep.
PowerPoint that had the. All right, nested communities. I don't know that I understand that. How's that different?
So nested communities is the ability to basically have communities in a certain structure. So if you have like committees and subcommittees that live under those, be able to have that kind of nested look and feel. Let me go and show this example. Boom, boom, boom. So this is where you have, let me just go to here. So where you have your executive committee, and then under that you have your ethics subcommittee and your nominations and awards subcommittee. Membership committee, you have subcommittees living under those. It's basically just if you have that look and feel, we can replicate it.
Gotcha. Okay. No, we don't need that. Okay. That's good news. Okay. All right. I'd love to think we'll get that sophisticated, but we're nowhere near that. All right. And then volunteer manager, no. Mentor match, I think I understand, and that could be cool.
Mm-hmm.
The expert speaker bureau, talk about that.
Yeah, so that's basically kind of an advanced version of the directory. And by the way, I do have a hard stop at 10, so I know we have about 5 minutes left. Just want to be aware of time there. But boom, this expert directory. So it's basically if you have members that are looking to do things like speak at events or conferences, maybe they get paid for speaking at these events, things like that. It allows them to really be kind of seen. So if I'm looking for somebody in Virginia who has this certain expertise or topics, maybe I'm looking for somebody to speak at my conference.
Mm-hmm.
I can search and find everybody who kind of fits what I'm looking for.
And these people confirm they are experts, or who designates them as expert?
Yeah, you can set it up really however you want. Most groups will they have to be confirmed as an expert by an admin. So you can see Heather here. Here's all her ribbons and badges and her areas of expertise. And then you can see the topics she's willing to speak on, her location and travel, things like that.
Okay, so it could be speaking, consulting, whatever.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and is that an expensive module?
So that's typically like an additional most of these are an additional $250 a month.
All right. And then you don't have to give an example because I know we're running out of time, but like the group manager.
Group manager is if you have like a ton of chapters, and those chapter leaders need to be able to like send out email blasts to their members and do a lot of tracking. That.
Okay, gotcha. And then how is that community event? Oh, that's an app. So that's okay, yep. Gotcha. Learning management system. I know Renee was mentioning that.
Yeah, so if you do things like webinars, courses, certifications, it's basically an online education tool.
Okay. But you all don't have the e-commerce. Well, I know I saw that on the event. Do you do have that or you don't, or?
The e-commerce functionality you can do through the learning management system.
Okay, so if we did that, would we be able to go with Growth Zone? I guess I'm confused. Because that was that was the reason we were sticking with Member Zone, is because we had to have some type of e-commerce capability.
Yeah, I would typically, most organizations, are you getting, sorry, I'm trying to remember, would moving to Growth Zone get rid of that e-commerce functionality?
Yes, what we have in Member Zone, they do not do in Growth Zone with regard to e-commerce. So we had asked if Higher Logic had an e-commerce piece where we could sell our webinar recordings, sell some downloads. And so, because
yes.
Okay.
You can do that. So Learning Management System is a third party. So we're official resellers of them. It's a group called Com Partners. And they do have an e-commerce tool that you can sell webinar recordings and things like that. That's an additional $550 a month. And I couldn't discount that at all. So I wouldn't, that'd be probably more than the full community.
Gotcha. So that may not be a good way to go there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Reviews.
So reviews is a new module. That's another third party. It's a place where members can post official, it's kind of like a Yelp specifically for your association. So, members can post reviews of different technology, things like that. And
then Workspace, what is that?
And then Workspace is if you have committees that are really kind of producing a lot of documents. So, standards, bylaws, things like that. It's basically a complex collaboration area where they can work on documents.
Okay. And then, so with all this you mentioned being transferred to, so we have a lot of integration support on kind of getting everything, somebody who understands us and helps us figure out the best way to do all of this. I think that's our concern, is we're just so small. We want to be sure we get that kind of guidance to get us moving here.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. You'll get a dedicated implementation project manager who will work with you specifically on your association.
Okay.
They'll have that initial call where you figure out, who are you, what are your goals, what are your members like, and then work with you to kind of build out that community specifically for you.
And, I know we're talking about driving membership dollars, but are there other money-making opportunities here that you would identify? Because I know that's a question my board is certainly going to ask.
Yeah, I would say advertisements are the biggest one. There's a ton of space for ad revenue within the community.
Okay.
So
and
we also have a partner called.
Do you have help for us in how to draft that and that kind of thing, or?
Yep, and we have a partner called ARP, Association Revenue Partners, who sells ads for our clients. They'll do all the ad sales for you, and you literally just collect a paycheck at the end of every month.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so memberships, ad revenue. I could see the expert directory being a moneymaker.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. All right, and then the last
and really just overall engagement as well. Your members are gonna, when they're more engaged, they spend more money on the association. They go to more events. They pay for more webinars. That's a huge thing that groups all the time say, hey, we want to better engage our members. But engagement, for the sake of engagement doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It's engagement is gonna increase your membership retention, attraction of new members, and then your members are just gonna invest a lot more.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the last thing on cost, which we may have to circle back next week, but I got to finally try to put some numbers on this. The last thing we had talked about was you were thinking you were able to get the monthly cost down to, was it 450?
Yeah, I think I could probably do 450.
All right, and then what was
I
that?
could definitely do 500. I could probably get to 450.
All right, and what was the one time?
I think I could get the one time down to like 4,500 from 7, so down like 3,000.
Okay. Now, a question, I don't know if this is going to be an issue, but here's where my concern is. We have a funder who's very generously eager to invest in us kind of upping our game, but that is a short-term grant. I don't even know if it's longer than 1 year. And so, you know, my concern is paying that monthly cost after the grant is gone. You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, is there some kind of scenario where we're able to say, you know what, we're going to prepay? I mean, I can't imagine you all be opposed to that. You know, I'm just trying to get creative on the way we're billing this, because if you...
Yeah, I think maybe I didn't mention this, and I apologize, but typically our billing is done annually.
Yes.
So you pay that annual fee, the monthly fee right up front.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But, I mean, what about even years in advance?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. I mean, I couldn't imagine we would be opposed to that.
I can't either. Right. What are your all's typical terms of your contract?
Typically 4 years, just so we can lock it. Especially with, I mean, the discount. I think that would be a good idea to be able to lock you in on that pricing. It's typically 4 years.
Okay. So that may be what we put in the grant, is we're trying to lock in. You know, maybe
Yeah.
they would that. I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, this is super helpful. Renee and I will kind of if you can send this recording, that'd be great. She can take a listen to it. And I suspect, so we won't be able to get back in touch with you until Wednesday. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll be available over email.
Oh, okay. All right. But definitely Wednesday.
Yeah, I might be a little slow at responding because I'll be at the beach, but I'll definitely have the email.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate your help, Chris, and hope you have a great trip.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it too. I hope you feel better.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
I'll talk to you later.